like, nope, I take my boat out on the water and I eat bagels for breakfast.
Yeah, not bad. Thank God.
Sean, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Chris, are you recording already?
Yeah, we're going.
Uh, oh, oh. Let's get started then. Yeah. Oh, it didn't even say the.
It said it for me.
Okay, it didn't say anything for me. So, hey guys, welcome back. So this week on the flip side, we are gonna discuss about some body awareness and actually understanding kind of what that is. It's kind of similar to spatial awareness and to some level, so we're probably gonna be going back and forth a little bit. If people have been watching the video episodes, you'll kind of notice I'm in a very new location, and yes, I am in my closet. So hopefully I sound okay.
I knew it.
I'm gonna try to help. So body awareness, kind of to describe it to some degree, to make it a little bit different than spatial awareness. Body awareness is understanding how it feels when you're moving, where spatial awareness is being aware of the things around you, if that didn't make sense to some people.
Yeah, and so like spatial awareness could also be like what's up and what's down.
Yeah. So they kind of intermingle a little bit. So
because then I would say that body awareness based on that one, body awareness would be like, okay, that's up. And then be like, what's pointed up? like I know that that's down. Is my head pointing towards the floor or my feet? Like that's important to know. That's why they're two different.
Body awareness is like understanding where your body is in that space, and spatial awareness is understanding that the floor is actually still maybe pointed towards where your head is. So understanding what up and down is. Yes, I actually like that a lot. I should explain it to my little kids that I coach, because sometimes they look at me like, what? And I'm like,
yeah, I coach the little kids in jiu-jitsu. So when I'm teaching now I explain everything like that. Like very super basic.
You got to explain it to people like they're idiots. It's okay.
Yeah, well, it helps me too because I'm also an idiot. Like I'll be like I'll be in mount and then I'll like put my hands down to be like in my head I'll be like sticky hands because that's what we say to the kids. I'm like I need my sticky hands.
Oh my God, that's everything. Thank you, Chris. That just makes my day. So getting into body awareness, the reason that we want to bring this up is I think it's quite important, especially when learning and tricking, and gymnastics and most acrobatic sports or most actual physical sports. So the biggest thing with body awareness is if you're bad at it, you need to work on developing it, because it's not just something you always inherently have. Like I've met people with extremely bad body awareness. No matter how much like I explain it to them, they're just like, I don't get it, and I don't feel things when I do things. Like I can't.
Like they can't physically.
Doing.
Yeah, they can't physically feel it in their mind when they're sitting still. Like they can't. Yes. Like I will be standing and I will completely space out, and they'll be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I was like fighting somebody. It's all good." like I just did a triple cork. I don't know if you're.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, whatever. Don't worry about
it. And sometimes when there's two drastically different turns of like, okay, you just did a cork, but this next one looks like the fattest cork of your life, and you're like, I couldn't feel a difference, and you're like, that makes no sense.
It's hilarious because when you said that, I like felt the difference. I was like, okay, the weight difference in my IT band and like the weight like throw that I have in my left arm in a fat cork versus a regular cork. Like a regular cork, I'm like this, and a fat one, I'm like my shoulder is like a lot more. Yeah, like it's a lot more solid and stiff and a lot more rebound, and I can feel the weight difference. Like just sitting here, I know exactly what it feels like.
So see, Chris is on the same page with me.
We both have it. We know we both have it. Have you met people who like? So you said that there are people who don't have that, but like, are they high level? Like skills?
Well, they're like, so I've met some kids that are kind of like higher level or like starting to approach that. And like, I've also met very beginners who just don't have any, but that also sort of makes sense to some degree for most part. But I've met some kids that are like on that trajectory of like getting high level or starting to like get those skills that are going to be starting to be considered high level. And they're just like, yeah, I couldn't feel the difference in that turn. And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
I'm like, I watch things when I'm watching like samplers, or I'm watching like the Olympics, or I'm watching like college gymnastics and stuff. And I'm like, I can I can imagine how that feels right now. And like, yeah, my spot points, like I couldn't walk myself through that 100%, but I could feel my way with how things should be moving, like doing the skills and like doing things and figure it out. Like, I don't understand how you can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
you just think it looks scary. And I'm like, no, it's pretty simple. Like, he just doing this, twisting like this. And he probably pulled a little bit early looking at it because they probably felt a little bit off. And they're like,
You
but
even know
how?
like the level of anxiety in most people's heads. Like based on how the trick
Yes.
like flew through the air, you're like, okay, he was stressed. like
Oh,
like
yeah.
during that, he was like, I hope I get to the floor. Or like you're like, oh, he was like super casual on the landing. Like you're like, he knew exactly where he was, that kind of thing. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
can
Because,
tell.
like, yeah, you see that.
Hey, if you enjoy our content and you want to show some support, make sure you follow us on Spotify and Instagram. Our Instagram tag is the_flip_side_podcast. Just make sure to go on there. Just shout out like old episodes that you liked, anything about the new episodes. You can comment on any of them. We would really appreciate it. And if you do end up wanting to go a step further, just become a supporter. All you have to do is follow the link in the description in any of our episodes that we've published. And you can also go under the About section in our Spotify homepage.
You can do as little as 99 cents a month. Any amount that you guys support us is going to help us build a better podcast and help build better trickers around the world.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can
Because,
tell.
like, yeah, you see that a lot, especially even in gymnastics too, where you can tell if they're a little bit nervous going into something.
Yeah.
Especially if you're around them enough times. It's not just like understanding their body, like their cues. It's just like you can see like when they're going into something, they're kind of holding back that little bit, and you're just like, ooh, this
Right.
isn't
A
gonna feel right.
little
And I'm
too
like,
rigid.
yeah, and I'm like, it felt like this during the takeoff, didn't it? They're like, yeah, and I'm like, I could tell.
Right.
Like, let's not do that again,
What's
please.
interesting for me is I also started with zero body awareness, and I remember specifically trying to do double seven in the grass and being like so thick. I don't know why I remember this specifically, but I just remember being told like you have like the worst kicks ever. And I was like, I know. That's why I'm drilling it, first of all. But like I was trying to understand, why are my kicks so bad and why don't I not know where I am? And like I still have trouble throwing like a fat, well, a lot less now. I just feel like I do because of my ankle, but in reality I don't. Like if my ankle is like nice and like not swollen,
Yeah.
the day of, I can relax into my ankle, which means that my hook kick comes out nice. And so yeah, I think that that's fixed itself over time. But in that moment, I was like, I don't know how to land with the correct angle. I don't know how my foot's supposed to come across. I don't know how far I'm supposed to rotate. I don't know if my hips are supposed to rotate to a certain point, where my foot's supposed to be. And like, I had
Yeah.
all of these questions, and all of them are like this chain, that's connecting to your core. And you're like, I don't know, in like my base foot, my kicking foot, my arms, there's so many things like that body awareness is entangled inside of, and you need to have that, but then you need to understand why your body, like that's the part I think that's important of body awareness, is to understand that like your whole body is a chain. Like you could be like, oh, my feet are towards the floor, but like it doesn't matter if you're in a pike position and your head is touching your knees. That's a bad thing. Or if you're fucking like a noodle, but your feet are towards the floor, you're still gonna crumple into a ball and it's gonna be painful. You need to have body awareness in the sense of like, oh, my feet are towards the floor, so I need to posture up and have like a good control, or like I need to be spinning out of this trick because I'm landing on a single leg, those types of things. So my end point of this is that is that the thing that solved that problem for me in the double seven is getting more flexible. I think flexibility is the key to understanding your own body and to gaining body awareness, because when you're stretching, and you can feel like every fiber of your being. Like you're stretching every single part of your body. So you're like, okay, this feels like that when it's over here. This feels like that when it's over here. And when you're doing the tricks or you're doing the flips, you're hitting the positions you are in stretching. And so you're basically training to understand what it feels like to snap to these positions, or even just be in them and get out of them. So
that's very true. Yeah, stretching. Wow, I guess I didn't think about that. Flexibility definitely would help with body awareness, because like you're pretty much going through most things you're going to be doing in a slower, more controlled environment. So like it's not inherently dangerous and you have full control. So you should probably, if you guys are stretching, which you should be, you should probably understand how it feels to be moving through those different ranges of motion too, and trying to like push it, especially like doing more active stretches like rolls into your splits, if you're working on splits at all, to especially get that flexibility for doing bigger kicks and like doing bigger things. I would definitely work on understanding how it feels and where you are when you're doing it. It helps so much. But so I kind of want to move forward into ways that you've developed, or maybe that we've developed in maybe a way of like body awareness, or how I've helped kids develop body awareness. So a lot of it, and I swear by it, is just drill, drill, drill. But like it's one way to help. So like especially if you're getting ready to do something new and you honest to God just do not know what to expect, just break it down from the very base thing and start adding things together until you get that skill. So like if you're doing, for example, for us, like if you're doing a clear hip, you got to start back from the beginning. Like, okay, can I do a back hip circle well? Okay, cool. So that's the lead. You can do a back hip circle. You know what it feels like to go around the bar.
Right.
Now, the biggest thing is that you have to now be away from the bar. And it's usually you want to be about 8 inches to a foot away from the bar for like ideal center of gravity and all this extra kind of stuff. So you have to use the leaning really early, because if you get too close to the bar, you're just going to kick off or kick off really late, or you're going to like fly off early because you're not going to be pulling tight. So you teach them literally just cast up, you keep really tight, and you just literally push back and fall off the bar. Just get used to keeping that distance and just letting it drop, because that's usually the scariest part. The push out's not the scary part. So if they can't get used to feeling what that drop should be, they're just not going to do it, because they're going to fight it because it's scary. And then you understand, okay, once they start doing that, now we start inverting it more. So then they come up to like a candlestick position. So they're holding onto the bar, feet are up towards the ceiling, and you tell them, feel that drop, watch your toes get above the bar, and just kick away. Like, don't even think about going over the bar yet. Just kick away, because that's
so good, because it's teaching them the bail point too, which is like, I think that's also key to body awareness, because that's why I constantly say you need to do variations. Because if you're not doing variations in your cork, then you're not going to have these bail points or your recovery points. Like, I think that's almost a better way to say it, is a recovery point. Like we were talking about B-twist before we even started, and you said you're teaching somebody to land in a tabletop position, so knees and hands, which is so good for B-twist. That's I would call it a recovery point. You're not losing awareness. You're retaining the awareness. You're landing the skill, just not the way that you want to, but you still are getting the flat spin. You're still getting the twist, and you're still learning from the movement. You're not just landing on your back and going like, oh, I learned nothing from that one, let's move on. You're like, I got to this point. What do I need to change? Or at what point did I get scared? And then you can add something to that. So like doing like a B-twist illusion or a B-twist D-leg, like those things are going to be like, okay, this is the point that I'm probably freaking out at. It's the point where you're upside down looking at the ceiling. That's usually the point. In most skills, but especially in B-twist, I know because it's like the first one people usually learn. So they're doing that and they freak out right there. Then they open up, and then they can usually get to their knees or close. And if they just learned to do something to occupy their mind, like a D-leg in that zone, then they'd be like, oh, I'm in control.
And then it's just carry through, and you're like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
So like it's working on drilling and learning those learning those recovery points. I actually like that. I'm going to start using that more.
Yeah, so I like it instead of a bail point.
Yes, learning those recovery points and like how to recover out of it is vital, because it makes you more comfortable with being able to throw the skill when you're getting ready to actually full send the skill. Because the first time is always the most terrifying, but usually until it's like near perfect, it's usually your best attempt for a long time, because you really just full send it and you just let everything happen. And the second one is usually the worst.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that you freak out on.
I know. It's so funny how that works, but that's pretty consistent.
Oh, yeah. So,
but also I think it's cool too. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I had some cool questions. So, if you
have a question, go ahead.
Okay.
Ask your question.
So I was curious about, so when you talked about using drills to get to an ending skill, what always happens with me is like I always research so much before I do any type of skill, and then I play it out in my head visually so many times before I actually even execute it. And so what ends up happening sometimes, like now that doesn't really happen, but it used to when I didn't have as much experience with body awareness. And what used to happen is that I would have this preconceived notion of how it feels or how to perform it or what muscle group I'm using to execute it. And then I actually do it and I go, wow, this is completely different than what I thought. And it kind of fucks me up, like in a sense that I now assume that it's a certain way, but I'm actually performing it a different way. So subconsciously, I keep doing it the wrong way. And so using the drills is a good thing to do. So what I like to do for kids that I'm coaching is like, I will teach them a skill, but not tell them what the goal is.
Oh, yeah.
because then they don't have a preconceived notion. If you tell them, yeah, this is for your backflip, they'll be like, okay, well then I need to be looking backwards. And you're like, you don't look backwards in a backflip, but they think you do. And so now they're going to do it in all their drills. So just small things like that. I was curious if you trick them into doing it, or if you tell them right away, like, don't have preconceived notions. This is how to do the drill. This is why you're learning it this way. Some of them are smart enough to figure it out, but
yeah. So usually I explain to them, like, gymnastics wise, at least, usually I explain to them, this is leading to this. So this is why we're working on these 2 or 3 things. Because if you add those 3 things together, it literally equals this.
Yeah.
So I've done it a couple times where I've like kind of like tricked them into doing things where, especially with like bronzes, it's actually helped a little bit more because they're so fresh and like everything is still kind of new to, like, especially like if I drill something from the beginning and then I add the second half of it without them understanding like exactly what it's supposed to be, then it just clicks.
Right.
So like one thing that I do with them, and actually this is really simple. This is actually just learning back hip circles. I got this good idea from a different coach, and all you do is you hold a foam noodle, you hold it up to your thigh, you try to squeeze it down to your leg as hard as you can, you watch your toes, and you make sure that you stay hollow, and you just fall backwards onto a mat. Super simple. Like, it is the dumbest drill I've ever heard, personally, but it works so well, because then you tell them, okay, after we cast and do our lean back, and you give it this note, like this name, so they know exactly what they need to do.
Right.
And then it triggers and it just happens. And then you're like, okay, so now when this happens, we come to here, and I have a different drill that I have set up that I call lean over, which is in more of a pike. So I tell them, push up tall on the bar, bend over, touch your head to your knees, and push back up.
Yeah.
And come up as straight as you can. I'm like, once you do your lean back, now you do your lean over, and that's a back hip circle. They're like, whoa. And they did it. And a couple of them, like, spot on. And I was like, great. Because then they didn't try to like
really
keep their head to their knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so smart, especially in gymnastics, because everything is so linear. Like the little bit of tumbling that I can do, it's like when I realize how to actually tumble, I'm like, whoa, it's like this. Like, it's very like this. Like the movements are so small, but most of it is just about like maintaining what you've created from the beginning, which is wild. And then in tricking, it's that same idea. It's like, but you can do that because the motions are like small still, but it's like most of the base positions are more complex. And so all you have to do is make that like default, be like, this is my default position. You don't have to overcomplicate it because that's normal. So now the motions are, just because tumbling is more easy to understand in the sense of linear, it's linearness. It's not necessarily any different in tricking. It's just your movements are different. So if you would understand tricking in the same way you can understand tumbling, you can still use the same concept of like small movements. Yeah.
Yes. So that's the way that I like to teach body awareness, is kind of like tricking them into like breaking down the skill as far as I can. And then just like getting them so used to feeling that part. I'm like, okay, do this with this. And maybe like sometimes there's like 3 drills that they're doing, and I'm like this, and this. And like then it starts to click, because then they like take a turn and they think about it a little bit. They're like, oh, it makes so much more sense. I'm like, yeah, that's understanding like how your body's supposed to feel while doing these things now, because they're becoming more automatic. You're getting that little bit of muscle memory. But now when you're doing certain things, you can feel that body awareness of knowing where you are, so it feels safer and it feels like you can actually go for it, not like just feel like you're gonna die.
Right. Even the visual cues too. I think that's super cool.
Yes. And like having an oh balls moment is definitely one of the most terrifying things you can go through, because each of us have had a few, and sometimes it's out of the simplest things. Because what was that one that you were doing? We were working. It wasn't the
kaboom. It was a kaboom.
It was just a kaboom. He literally just kicked his feet and just went oh balls, and like just wasn't flipping.
It was not that simple. I was double bounced by 3 people.
Yeah, and then you just kind of went straight up, and
I went so high.
Moved. and like you started coming down and we're like, oh.
Well, I did like the dom trick thing where I thought
Yep.
that the double bounce was going to make me rotate slow. So I like started leaning back like a layout, but I really just like my head and my feet like canceled out my bounce. So I went straight up thinking that I rotated. And then I look backwards and I'm just staring directly at the trampoline and I'm like, I am gonna die. And I thought I was up and down like this. I thought I was just completely vertical, head straight towards the floor. But then when I like kind of sat back up a little bit, then I landed on my back, and then I was like, "Whoa, I'm alive!" Even when I hit the trampoline, I was so confused. I was like, "Oh, the trampoline's touching my back."
Oh, what just happened?
Yeah.
Well, it's like one of the one of the first after the first few double full ball outs that I was trying on your trampoline where I sensed it. I was like, I'm really comfortable. I'm getting the twist to my feet really good. I just need to like pull it to my stomach just to get that one last timer, and I can try to send it over my head. And I sent it too big, like I was gonna go over my head, and I didn't feel it 100%. I was like, oh, I said a little big, so I'm gonna try to not flip as fast.
Yeah, I
that
remember.
time my scorpion.
I remember it.
Oh my! I thought I was never gonna walk again. It hurt so bad. I was like, Jesus Christ, my back is. I'm dying.
You did that where like you hit the scorpion and then you freeze, and you're like, ah.
Yeah,
frozen.
It
Like,
was
when the scorpion freezes for a second. That's how you know.
Oh, I know. That is like my scariest losing my body awareness moment. And like I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
I think I'm dead.
Oh
Like,
gosh. Sometimes when I do tricks out of like G switch, like variations out of G switch, because G switch is my power setup. So I'm so used to just setting it hard and like ripping a twist. And so when I do like the worst one is like shuriken cutter. I cannot G switch shuriken cutter. I can, but it does not look good and it does not feel good because every time I do it, I go way too high and I hit like a triple cork barrel. So like my shuriken comes out late, but I don't know it comes out late. And then I get to a point where like I should be throwing the kick and landing, but then I fall like 3 feet and I'm like, what the fuck? And I don't know what to do with that excess energy. Like I don't have a good body position that ends a hook. So I like land and hook at the same time, but I like can't hook and fall like a few feet. It just doesn't work for me because my ankle is so fragile too. So like I don't have a good position where I feel comfortable coming out of that. And that's why I just turbo now instead. So I can do G switch, shuriken cutter, turbo. That's fine. Just when I like do a hook though, I think because I also throw my head aggressively. Yeah. Yeah.
So another thing, I know I keep like going back and forth in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm thinking of too many things. A thing that my dad had said at one point, and I kind of relate this to body awareness to some degree. He's like, it was such a weird thing for him to say, because I asked him one day, just like story time, why he kept the lights off in the house, because he liked it really dark.
Oh boy.
Blinds closed, everything. It was just really dark. And I'm like, okay. And I asked him about it once, and he's like, you know, if anything ever happens, you should know your house forward and backwards, blindfolded.
Yeah.
Before someone breaks in, because like you should know exactly what you're able to do and like where you are at all times. And I was like, that's interesting. And like it stuck with me a little bit, not for that purpose exactly, but it stuck with me of like, okay, well, if I'm doing tricks, like I'm not gonna do it with my eyes closed, because that's the worst way to do things, because you shouldn't do things with your eyes closed, because no. But you should be able to feel your way through your skill through the important parts and figure out what the important parts are of that skill. And like to develop that is so vital, because like you said, you need to learn your recovery point. You need to know what those are. At least if there's like one, there always should be one at least.
Yeah.
And like knowing the base tricks that come into that skill, like doing a snatch cannon, if you can't full in, you probably shouldn't do snatch cannon. Yeah. And I bet you a lot of people that have thrown it can't full in, and that scares the absolute shit out of me.
No, I think I think all of them can full in. I think all of them can, except me. I think I'm the only one. I think I'm the only one who does.
But you can full in on trampoline, so like still a little bit different.
Okay.
I give you credit there. Just not tumbling wise, but hey, whatever.
I've done it on tumble track too.
Okay, so you're fine then. You're good.
All right.
So my other point that I'm trying to get at is, so one thing that I did, especially not just because I heard that, but like when we used to be able to mess around on trampoline, I guess this is more like fun story times for me because this is reminiscing 20 years ago. Oh my
Yeah.
God, 20 years. Anyway, we used to be able to mess around on trampolines before practice. And like, this is why I stress that trampolines are so vital for learning things, is because I used to go on there, and just do 100 to 200 back bounces with my eyes closed and like do some twists with it and just bounce as low as I could, see how it felt, as high as I could, try to feel that timing of like how high I was going, feeling the drop, when I needed to stay tight, when I needed to push. If I could push bigger, if I could do this, okay, if I add this twist, do I still feel where I'm at? And I slowly started, when I was adding the twist too, especially at the beginning, it felt a little freaky. So I like would push up, I'd push the half, spot the trampoline just very momentarily, and then just close my eyes again and pull. So I knew where I was going and I knew where I was. And then eventually I just tried it with my eyes closed and it felt really weird. But once I did it the first time, I was like, okay, like I could feel my way through it. And I like knew from being able to open my eyes and spot, I knew where I was, that timing. So now I just really need to focus on how it feels, because I know how high I am.
Yeah.
And I know exactly where I'm at. So I just need to work on actually staying tight and like doing this. So I started doing like other skills, at least safely, that were like very base things, just with my eyes closed. I don't always recommend it, because like if you're not competent at the skill, don't.
I've done that too. I think another really cool thing that's kind of the same concept is trying to make up moves, like trying to like invent a trick. Even if you're reinventing the wheel, that's totally fine. It makes you understand why certain tricks are the way they are. Because if you're trying to do something that doesn't necessarily make sense, or you're trying to learn a new trick, you're forcing yourself to learn a new area that you haven't discovered yet. And then you almost have attacked an area that already exists with another perspective. So getting multiple perspectives on certain movements is really what's going to give you the best body awareness, and understanding this plus this equals that, like gainer plus cheat 9 equals cork. So like, and if you can do a cork, then you can cheat 9. And if you can cheat 9, you can B twist. And if you can B twist, you can cork. And if and if you can gainer, then you can figure out a cork too. Like because they're all connected like that. And if you find the things that are similar, then you'll understand that body awareness is really just a shit ton of different body positions that you're snapping into throughout all these tricks. You're just like eagle plus swing plus twisting motion plus eagle equals cork. Like, but if you remove different body positions in the middle, that's what I'm talking about. Like these little movements, like if you're like, you hit a position, then you hit the next position, then you hit the next position. You're basically just doing a bunch of body positions and snapping to them in the trick. And you can like add and subtract them as you go to create a trick. And so that's a cool way to think of body awareness too, is like the positions. That's why I think stretching is like really important, because you're like hitting a position. So
yes. And like, and I kind of wanted to relay this back for you, because like doing jujitsu is like complete, like that is on ground body awareness. Like, and I know trickers usually have some like decent air awareness and like where they are, like spatially where they're at in the air, like with their body. Some of the times I don't know if they do, but hey.
Well, I'd say a lot of them don't, but that's okay.
But like body awareness when you're on the ground, like that's even hard to understand, because like not getting coached through it, and like us, like since we have some more natural body awareness, and like we understand things of like, we understand like where we're at. But like most people, like if you're getting grappled or something and you can't kind of feel how you're doing, like where your body is in comparison to like where the mat is compared to where the other person is, and like you can't imagine in your head like where they're at, how they're holding you,
right,
it's hard to do things then, I'm assuming, in jiu-jitsu, or am I wrong? Because like competition wise, that sounds like a pain in the ass.
No, you're right. There's actually this new skill that I'm developing. It's like body awareness, but for the opponent. So like I am holding one part of their body, holding another part of it. Like I'm pulling one thing, pushing another thing. And because of that, I know that both their shoulders are in a certain spot. I know which side of the hip their weight is on. And because of that, I can sneak my knee into this spot. So like all these little things that start to add up, it's like you're developing body awareness for your opponent also. And then there's this move too called go fishing. And once I understood how to go fishing, then I started developing lower body awareness, because when you're grappling, you're so upper body focused, because this is where all of your getting attacked is generally your upper body. It's weaker. So they're going to use their legs to stabilize you, and then they're going to attack your upper body. And that's where your neck is, right? So it just makes sense. So a lot of it is very upper body at first. And once you understand that your lower body is your main defense and can be used as your main offense too, is like you need the awareness because you can't see it. They're just there. If they're sitting on your chest, you can't see your feet. Or if you have your legs wrapped around them and you're in guard, you also can't really see your feet. So the move go fishing, basically. So if they're sitting on your chest, you need to get them to your hips, and then you use your feet to grab. So like it's hard to explain, but they've got their feet outside, you got your feet inside. You take this foot and cross it over, pull their foot, and now this foot's free, so you can slide it out, and then you get it up to block them. So it's like it's really interesting because you can't see it happening. You don't know where their feet are. You don't know where your own feet are, and they're attacking you. So you need the body awareness to be like, okay, I need to do this right now. And you're like feeling them fighting it. And I still don't have that great of body awareness because something called half guard, where they're trapping one of your legs, so you can't climb all the way on top to get good position. People will do these funky things to slide out of it or do these crazy things to get into it on me. And I'm like, I don't know how this rope is getting tangled. Like I'm like, I don't know what's happening out there. I can't see it. I didn't expect it. I just feel all of a sudden like the tension is gone. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like all of a sudden I just lose all my control. Like, oh fuck. So yeah, it's really interesting in jiu-jitsu for sure to like gain the new types of body awareness. But also people are very jealous of the body awareness that I do have. Like my inverted guard, so good. Basically, I'm sitting on my head and I'm upside down and my feet are on the floor. Most people aren't even flexible enough to do that, let alone know where their feet are or where their power comes from in that position.
Oh yeah.
Easy for me because tricky. So
because we're used to being upside down. Because why not?
Exactly. And then like cartwheel guard passes, or like people try to do a takedown and I'll cartwheel out of it. Nobody gets points for that. Just like things where I'm like, it just naturally happens. I even did it in the last competition that I did. So it was just like, it's like, well, damn, like I didn't try to do that. It's just like my body's naturally reacting because I say, okay, you're here and you need to get here. And my body's like, okay. And then it does it. And it's like, okay, sounds good.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So I guess to recap, because I don't think I can think of anything else that I could actually like throw in to like help with this, give it some more depth. But did you have any other like anecdotes, any personal stories that you wanted to add beyond like the jiu-jitsu thing?
No, I think that's really it. And the all balls moment was definitely a good one too. But yeah, like I think so this is going to be something we're going to talk about later too, but like using visualization to develop body awareness. I think that's like another really big key to like developing it. And also, just drilling and practice falling, because those are points that you're going to hit. If you don't fall, you definitely get body awareness. Then it's like you're getting punished for not knowing, so you'll learn faster.
Yes, that is. Yeah, falling is part of learning. Don't be afraid of it. Like that's just dumb. In my opinion, I've really started to get on top of that. Like I'm just like, falling's part of it. You need to learn. Like just learn to fall safely. That's it.
Right. And people are afraid of pain, right? But it's like really that's the signal that's telling you where your body's at. Be like, oh, thank God, my ankles always hurt. I always know where they are in the air.
Yep.
It's actually the secret.
That's the secret to the body awareness. Pain.
Yeah, your joints are always in pain.
Oh my God. All right. Well, God damn it. Well, I don't got anything else to add, so I think we can just call it good then there.
Sounds good to me. All right. See you guys next time.
See you guys next time.
Don't forget to follow us on the_flip_side_podcast on Instagram.
And CHRISPY_TRIX. That's chrispy-trix on Instagram. And I also have another YouTube channel, TrixFix, TRIX space FIX, for more tutorials and other things.
And we'll see you guys next time.